This week's discussion is on neo-evolution. Neo-evolution is the of evolution, theory of evolution of societies via long-term cultural changes and the relationship between those long-term changes and the characteristics of human culture in response to social behavior, technical, and ecological adjustments. One of the primary tenets of neo-evolution is that these traits are passed on by parents to their children, as well as cultural and technological characteristics of their surroundings. Um, this kind of ties into Charles Darwin's theory of natural selection. So they kind of go hand in hand there. Most neo-evolutionists are more concerned with environmental and technological adjustments rather than anthropological or familial changes. Example that I first thought of was stem cell research and stem cell therapy, partly because baseball player on my favorite team, rather than undergoing surgery and missing a year and a half of playing, decided to use rest rehab and stem cell injections for elbow or shoulder injury. So that's kind of a first for that, but I didn't know a lot about stem cell research. I knew it was somewhat controversial, very big in the political, also religious sector. I know the right to life people don't like that. Think scientists are playing God. One way to look at it, I guess. So, but that's the first thing I thought of as I started looking into it. And I was amazed at the potential benefits from stem cell therapy. There's all kinds of different treatments. Right now, the most common treatment is a stem cell transplant, where they use embryonic cells, which are kind of matured into specialized cells, depending on what the treatment is for. It's a lengthy process, but once those cells are matured, the scientists can engineer them towards a specific kind of cell that's needed in the patient, or for a particular disease or injury. Excuse me. Right now, some typical treatments. I found a handful. Replacing neurons damaged by spinal cord injury, stroke, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and other neurological problems. In theory, they can be used to help trigger, to produce insulin for people with diabetes, heart muscle cells for heart attack victims. Again, another theory is they can replace or repair almost any tissue or organ that is damaged or diseased. Scientists really believe that there's no limit to what can be treated with stem cells. Potential drawbacks is it's a newer technology, not a lot of research into it. A lot of research going on in Europe right now, not so much here. A lot of that has to do with the ethical considerations, which we'll get to in a minute here. But another drawback is the time it takes in the collection process, how the embryonic stem cells are collected, matured, engineered, genetically engineered into certain types of cells. It's a very, very complicated and time-consuming process. Scientists have to mimic the natural aging and progression of the cells in a lab dish, and any small mistake can result in the wrong type of cell being developed, the cell dying, cells remaining immature and not being able to be used. But one of the biggest drawbacks leads into the next section, which is the moral and ethical implications. Because they're embryonic cells, they are resulted from the human embryo, typically around the 5th day of development. once the cells are removed, that ends any potential further development of the embryo. Um, so the ethical concern there is you kind of get into the discussion of when does life begin. Those that believe life begins at conception, at fertilization, view that as the unnecessary killing of an unborn child. In a nutshell, they call it murder. So that begs a whole new question. Actually, begs two new questions. When does life begin? And I didn't realize there's a big right to life debate, which kind of centers around mental capacities. A lot more complicated that we're going to get into here, but any kind of, much like the cloning efforts, Dolly the sheep, which I believe was 20 years ago this week or here recently, is, do scientists want to play God? Do we want to let that happen? So big moral, ethical. Most of it has to do around the right to life. When does life begin? Question there. Without getting into that debate, I do believe that we should continue this form of technology, keep researching what the potential for stem cell research, replacement therapy can be. If it can fight diseases like, heart disease, cancer, other neurological disorders, Parkinson's, it's definitely worth looking into. There has been a more recent attempt. Actually, the source was from 2007, updated to 2013, but about using human skin cells that appeared to have the similar properties of the human embryonic stem cells, but there wasn't a lot of success. That's relatively new, hasn't been fully explored yet. Obviously, it should be, because then you kind of end that right to life debate there. But if we have the opportunity to cure a lot of diseases, I think we have to explore that and see where that takes us. So I thank you.